Hey everybody, this is the helper video for question number 8. And in this question, we're going to look at a PowerPoint that we've already looked at a little bit for some of the other questions on the take-home final. Okay, so follow along with me if you would by going to slide number 53 on this Google slideshow, and it gets into photojournalism law. It's slide 53, and let's look at this together. So basically in the US, we have wide latitude to take pictures in public places. So and especially if the place is considered public property, such as a street, a sidewalk, a public school. And so, for example, Florida State is a public school, and you can walk on to the campus of Florida State University and you can take pictures in the quad. You can take pictures of people coming and going out of classes, and you are completely protected, yes, protected under the First Amendment to take pictures of college students and anything you want on the grounds of Florida State University. You don't have to get anyone's permission first. Now, you can't barge into a classroom that's in session and start taking photos, but you can just physically be on the campus if you want. University of Tampa. We're a private school, of course, but we are open to the public, and people, of course, I know we all see people for prom and for weddings will come to Plant Hall and take pictures in front of Plant Hall because it's such nice architecture. But if a news crew is on UT's campus and the university doesn't want them there, they do have the right to ask those people to leave, and they're allowed to do that because UT is a private school. So think about what's private and what's public. A public park, you could walk onto a public park and take pictures all you want. No one has the authority to kick you out and tell you not to take pictures. They may not like it that you're taking pictures, but if it's public property, usually you're allowed to take pictures. It's not like that in all in all countries, but that's the way it is here in the U.S. Elementary schools are different. You can't walk into an elementary school without a K through 12 public school without permission, so that's a slightly different situation. But public streets and sidewalks, fair game here in the U.S. Don't need anyone's permission. Now, you can't interfere with first responders or police, firefighters, EMT, paramedics. You can't jump in front of a cop who's trying to arrest someone. You can't jump in front of an EMT who's trying to save someone who was just in a car accident and take pictures. Of course, you can't interfere with first responders, but you can, at a safe distance, take pictures, and that is your constitutional right, and it's considered very newsworthy to do so. We want to know if people are, if a road is very dangerous and people are dying on that road and there's accidents, we encourage photos to be taken and news outlets to publish those things. You do have to be at a safe distance away, though. And in fact, in this situation right here, you would be allowed to publish this photo even though this person may not want his picture made if he's been in a car accident. At the point where you can no longer take this guy's picture is once they are in the ambulance. Once that ambulance door closes, he's considered basically to be in the hospital, and he's covered by medical privacy rights. All right, what about angry bystanders? This happens all the time in photojournalism. People come up and yell at you and say, "How dare you?" But they are actually the ones who are incorrect. Now, of course, you don't want to get into a shouting match with someone who's upset that their house is on fire and is burning down, and you're standing across the street taking a picture of it. They probably are just upset and looking to blow off steam. But they're actually incorrect. As long as you're not on that person's property, you can take a picture of, if you're standing on the public sidewalk, you can take a picture. Government buildings are public, but they're under special rules. There are some government buildings where you can't just barge in and take pictures. For example, state legislative chambers, are they public? Yes, they're owned by the public. They're obviously public places that are funded by taxpayer dollars, but you can't just barge into a state legislative chamber and start taking pictures without permission. Military bases, same thing. Publicly funded, but you can't just barge on to a military base and start taking pictures. Hospitals, same way. There's lots of privacy laws that would stop you from walking into someone's hospital room and taking a picture of someone in the hospital. Congress, same thing. Special rules. Privately owned places. Anything you can see from a public street is okay. So if someone is up against the window of their living room, or if it's a restaurant and someone is seated by the window, you can actually take a picture of them from the sidewalk, and no one can tell you that you can't do that. If you walk onto private property, let's say a restaurant, you walk into a restaurant and you start taking pictures, the owner can tell you to leave. The owner of the restaurant does not have to let you take pictures. Again, if you're across the street on the sidewalk and you're taking pictures of people walking in and out of the restaurant, yes, you're protected. But if you walk into private property that's owned by someone else, even though it's open to the public, the person who owns it can tell you to leave. So if you want to take pictures inside a restaurant, talk to the manager first and get that all situated first. Another place that can get you in trouble is intruding where privacy could be expected. Anywhere outside where someone might be walking their dog or something like that, no one can expect privacy there. If people driving by in their car can see you, that's not a private place, and if you were out taking pictures there, you would be protected constitutionally, legally. You'd be protected. Okay, now there's a difference between using photos for newsworthy purposes, like a news outlet or a newspaper or your blog or something like that, and then using someone's face or image to sell a product. So if someone takes a picture of you just out on the street and it shows up on the front page of the newspaper, well, nothing you can do about it. Even if you're having a bad hair day, sorry, nothing you can do. If you were in public and a photojournalist took your picture and it ran on the front page of the Tampa Bay Times, nothing you can do. But if you find your face up on a billboard and it's an ad for Coca-Cola and you did not give them permission, then you can sue that company. So if your image is going to be used in an advertisement, they must have your consent to use your image. Sometimes it's rare, but sometimes, and this usually happens with a text photo combination, sometimes someone might make you look bad and put you in what's called a false light. Almost always, it's the picture itself is not what does it. It's the headline that goes with it that suggests something that is false about you. For example, this photo of a kid in the street, and then the mom is like trying to get the kid out of the street. It says they asked to be killed. The Saturday Evening Post was actually successfully sued because it made the mom look negligent, like she was not a good parent. So that in that case, they were successfully sued. Here, this is from Newsweek. This guy, if the photo of him had run without this headline, "The Troubled American," it would have been fine, but it suggested that this man was, quote, troubled, and so he sued and won. Here's an example of someone who was in the hospital with anorexia, and a magazine took her picture and published it, and she successfully sued. And here's a paragraph that explains that story and what happened there. All right, so once again, if you're in a public place, a public street, public sidewalk, and you take a picture of an accident or car accident or a fight or someone getting arrested or there's someone's business or house is on fire, you are protected. You can take that picture. But it's not that way in every country. So the rest of this question is after you talk about in the US where we are allowed to take photos and where we're not, this article from the New York Times really explains the difference between, in the US, we like to be open and transparent. The law, the First Amendment, basically wants us to be able to publish things, to be able to take pictures of people, to be able to talk about people, to be able to talk about our leaders and even criticize them. And that's what the First Amendment protects. That is what constitutionally and legally we're very protected here in this country to take pictures, even if those people don't want their pictures taken. But over in Europe, things are a little bit different. In Europe, if someone has been the victim of something and they're on the street and you take a picture, you actually need their permission, or if they are deceased, you need a family member's permission. So that's very different in Europe than it is from here. Here you would not need their permission, but over in Europe you would. So Europe emphasizes privacy more than we do here in the States. Okay, you can also, if you want to, you can get into social media a little bit. Europe has much more tight controls over privacy with regard to Google and Facebook than we do here. And this photo from the New York Times is really fascinating. There was a terrorist attack in Paris, and this photographer here took a picture of one of the terrorist victims, one of the victims of the terrorist attack. She got sued because she did not have the family's permission to publish a photo of this victim of terrorism. In the US, this would not have happened, but in Europe, it can happen. So you can read this article and talk about, and basically what I want to know is, which side do you fall on? Do you fall more on the side of wanting the public to be able to know what's going on and see what's going on, transparency? Or are you more on the side of people should have the right to privacy and they shouldn't have their photos taken without permission? So get into that in your answer to this question.